Harold lived for the weekend. He loved his job as an accountant well enough. It was steady, it was quiet, but it wasn't his passion. His heart truly beat faster for the thrill of the hunt. Every Saturday he would wake up before the sun, a steaming cup of coffee in hand, and scan through the local classifieds for that week's yard sales. Harold loved the potential of finding a diamond in the rough, a forgotten treasure just waiting to be rediscovered. One crisp Saturday morning, Harold found himself drawn to a sale in a quiet older neighborhood that he'd never visited before. The houses were stately, well kept, with sprawling lawns and manicured flower beds. The sale was advertised as an estate sale, and Harold was particularly excited about those. An estate sale meant a lifetime of belongings up for grabs, increasing the odds of finding something truly special. He parked his car and walked up the long driveway, anticipation building with each step. The sale was in full swing when Harold arrived. Tables overflowed with knickknacks and furniture. He wandered through the maze, his eyes scanning for anything that piqued his interest. And then he saw it. Tucked away on a table filled with costume jewelry and old perfume bottles sat a beautifully crafted wooden box. It was small, no bigger than a book, but its dark wood was intricately carved with swirling patterns that seemed to writhe and shift as he stared at them. Harold was immediately captivated. He carefully picked up the box, feeling its surprising weight in his hands. It was cold to the touch, almost unnaturally so, and the smooth wood felt strangely soft beneath his fingertips. He examined the intricate carvings more closely. They were unlike anything he'd ever seen, almost unsettling in their complexity, and he found himself tracing their paths with his index finger as if in a trance. "That's a beautiful piece you have there," a raspy voice startled him. Harold looked up to see an elderly woman standing beside him. She was thin and frail, her face a roadmap of wrinkles, and her eyes held a strange intensity that made Harold uneasy. He smiled politely, clutching the box tighter to his chest as if she might try to take it from him. "It is quite lovely," he agreed. "Do you know anything about it?" The old woman chuckled, a dry, crackling sound like dead leaves skittering across pavement. "More than I care to remember," she muttered, her gaze fixed on the box in Harold's hands. "Some things are better left undisturbed, young man." Harold tried to laugh it off, attributing her cryptic words to the ramblings of an old woman. He asked the price, and to his surprise, it was ridiculously low. It was as if she wanted to be rid of it. He paid for the box, ignoring the woman's intense stare as he walked away. He could feel her eyes boring into his back as he left the yard sale, the weight of her unspoken warning heavy in the air around him. Harold shook off the unsettling feeling, excited about his unique find. He couldn't wait to get home and examine it more closely. He spent the rest of the day wrapped up in his new treasure. His initial uneasiness forgotten, he carefully examined the intricate carvings, marveling at the craftsmanship. The box was even more captivating in the light of his apartment. He tried to open it, but it was firmly shut. He eventually found a small hidden latch concealed within the carvings. As he pressed it, he heard a soft click and the box creaked open. The interior was lined with faded velvet, and inside lay a few tarnished trinkets, a silver locket with its chain tangled, a man's signet ring, and a small handheld mirror with an ornate silver back. Harold spent the next few days researching the box online and in libraries. He couldn't find any information about its origins or the meaning of the strange carvings. It was as if the box had simply materialized, with no past and no history. The more he learned, or rather didn't learn, the more fascinated he became. He found himself constantly drawn back to the box, his fingers tracing the swirling patterns, a strange pull he couldn't explain. It was around this time that the strange occurrences began. It started subtly at first. He would wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, convinced he'd heard someone whisper his name. He started noticing shadows moving in the periphery of his vision, fleeting glimpses that vanished when he turned his head. His once peaceful apartment now felt oppressive, filled with unseen eyes and unheard whispers. He tried to rationalize these events, blaming stress, lack of sleep, anything but the box that sat on his coffee table, seemingly mocking his attempts at normalcy. One evening, as he sat reading, Harold heard a distinct scratching sound coming from the box. He cautiously approached it, his pulse quickening. As he leaned closer, the scratching stopped, replaced by a low, guttural whisper. He couldn't make out the words, but the voice sent chills down his spine, a cold dread seeping into his bones. He knew, with terrifying certainty, that the whispers were meant for him. Harold tried to convince himself that he was imagining things, that the stress of his work and the late nights were playing tricks on his mind. But deep down he knew the truth. The box was the source of his growing terror, a Pandora's box he never should have opened. His once organized life was spiraling into a chaotic nightmare. He was sleeping less, his work was suffering, and the whispers and shadows seemed to follow him everywhere. Desperate, Harold decided to get rid of the box. He drove back to the neighborhood where he'd found it, but the house where the yard sale had been was empty. The lawn was overgrown, the paint on the house was peeling, and a sense of decay hung heavy in the air. It was as if the house had been abandoned for years. Panicked, Harold tried to throw the box away in public trash cans, but it wouldn't leave his possession. Every time he tried to discard it, it would reappear in his apartment as if by magic. He tried to give the box away, but the whispers and shadows intensified, and people would recoil from him in horror, claiming they saw something sinister lurking over his shoulder. Trapped, Harold found himself retreating further into himself. He stopped going to work, stopped answering his phone, stopped venturing outside. His once bright apartment became a prison, the air thick with unseen menace. The whispers grew louder, the shadows more defined, and Harold found himself on the precipice of madness. One day, Harold vanished. The only sign of his existence was the ornate wooden box sitting open on his coffee table, the small silver mirror reflecting nothing but emptiness. Some say Harold was driven mad by the whispers, lost in the labyrinthine echoes of the box's dark history. Others believe he was claimed by whatever entity resided within, dragged into the swirling abyss he'd unwittingly opened. The truth, like the box itself, remains a mystery. But one thing is certain. Some things are best left undisturbed, their secrets buried too deep for our world. For those who dare to unearth them, there is only madness and despair, a haunting reminder that curiosity can indeed kill.